Have you ever gotten around a bunch of Christians and got depressed? Man, I have. I don't know about you, but some of these people out there really got problems. You know, you got issues. You got situations. Oh, Joe won't do what Mary said, and Mary won't do what Joe said, and Brad he won't pay attention to either one of them. And like all the kids, you know, just kicked the dog and ran over the cat. We don't even know where Mary's at. You know, the typical Christian version of fellowshipping one with another. I don't know about you, but I get around some Christians, I get depressed. Man, I don't know what they're thinking. I don't even know what they're doing. I'm doing my best imitation of two, like people that take, snuff and chew snuff. That's one to kind of like get it with the hang of it, because, yeah, I want to be one of them duck hunters, I heard they're spiritual. The whole country wanted to follow them, do something right with it by it. Make sure they don't get persecuted for all the millions of dollars they're making on the shows, all the bucks that they're making endorsements, and all the other things that are going on, because you know what? God bless them. God bless them. God bless them. God bless them. Okay. Like I said, sometimes I get around Christians and they depress me because I have no idea what they're doing. Following reality TV shows? What's up with that? Wow. That's real? Are you kidding me? That's what everybody's into? My gosh. I'm glad that I don't watch television, or I see maybe one or two television shows, Well, I may even see one or two a night. I might get one television show in because I'm busy. If you've ever looked at VidDevo Church schedule, I'm busy. I got better things to do. And that's kind of what we want to talk about in this perspective of looking at VidDevo, is that what are you looking at? Who you looking at? Who you looking at, dude? I mean, are you checking out, the Ducks in order to compare yourself to, the dynasty that you see on television and think, well, by golly, that's reality. Really? You think that's television reality? Well, I saw him giving a talk at a church, and I was impressed. He stood up for what was right. You think that's reality? I mean, I work behind the scenes of ministers all the time. I spent probably 35 years working behind the scenes of most Christian ministries. And by golly, what comes out on the pulpit is not what comes out behind the scenes. Oh my God. Let's be real for a minute here. Hello? Sometimes it's close, but it's not the same. Matter of fact, lights, action, camera, and here we go. Boy. You stick me in front of the camera, I'm the same way that I'm off camera. Sorry. What you see is what you get. So perspective is like, what are you looking at? And who are you looking at? And why are you looking at what you're looking at? I mean, don't get me wrong, the number one popular visit site on the internet is porno. What are you looking at? You know what you're looking at. You know why you're doing that. Church sites, I'm always fascinated by church sites. I go to a church site and I think, who would you write that for? For yourself? Are you trying to get anybody to actually look at this thing? Do you really care what people see? Do you realize that how dumb some of these things look? Or how stupid they are? No? Oh, okay. If they're just a billboard, okay, that's fine. So you want the people to come to you. You don't want to go to the people. What are you looking at? What are you doing? Where are you at? I wonder, because I always hear this thing about church, and I always heard that Jesus said, go, and I always hear people say, come. Now, wait a minute. Didn't Jesus say go? Well, no, he said come to. I go, well, didn't he say come unto me? Because I always hear people say come to church. And I don't know any scripture that says come to church. No offense, I mean, I understand there are scriptures that, if you want to go, you go. If you enjoy to go, you go. If you're a part of the church, you should be a part of the church. Whenever I work in the church, I'm a part of the church. I do the things at church and I function and operate accordingly, and no one questions about what I'm doing. Well, they may question, but they see that it's getting done, so they give glory to God, hopefully. But the thing I do is whatever God said to do. I don't do what the people say, So I don't understand sometimes when people say, well, bring them to church and we'll get them saved. Really? That's unique. Bring them to our concert, we'll get them saved. Now that I get a handle on a little bit. I understand that one a little bit closer. Well, bring them to this crusade, and they're going to get saved. I go, well, okay, I kind of got that, Can I ask you something? Who's going to take care of them after they get saved? Because that's usually what I'm kind of curious about. Mega ministries, sometimes you see them kind of follow up, but the person, the person gets saved, they got to follow up on their own. They got to make the commitment. They got to, follow and make the effort to come see us at our church. Oh, really? So what did you do with your website? Hello? Well, we got a live service, so, they can watch it then. Well, that's nice. Got their name? Ever been over their house? No? Okay. Like I said, if I want to get depressed, I get around a bunch of Christians. Now, if I want to get blessed, I get around the people of God. You see, there's a difference between a Christian and the people of God. The people of God know God. The people of God talk to God. The people of God listen to God. The people of God have fellowship with God. They're kind of like godly, kind of like spending time with God daily, wanting to know what God has to say, trying to hear his voice, trying to follow his will, trying to do what he says to do. I kind of find that interesting because those are the people that bless me. Now, Christians depress me, but godly people, the ones that know God, bless me because that's what they do. They just bless you. They're thrilled to see you. They can't wait to talk about God to you. They're willing to share the things that they've got of God. They're willing to be a part of your life. They want to know what's been going on, what's been happening. Not like the Christians do, because you know how the Christians do it. Well, hey, George, how's it going? Well, I'm doing pretty good. Well, great. Glad to see you. Glad you made it. Glad to make it. Bye. Bye. Catch you later. Ciao. Very interesting. I could tell someone that's been with God because he goes, man, check this out. Did you see what we were reading this morning? Man, I came to church, and it was awesome. Everything that I was reading in the Bible, the same day that I went to church, God was talking about and using the pastor to speak about it, and then it just confirmed to me exactly what God wanted me to do. So I was like going through these trials and didn't understand what was happening, and then suddenly I was reading this and I really got a handle on it, and now I know where I'm going and I know what I'm going to do this afternoon. And I was going to go party, with my friends. I was going to go watch football and get drunk, and just watch the score games. But instead, it was like, wow, God had been talking to me about, giving up the things of the world. And I think that God's telling me, to give up the things of the world, that he's going to do something special for me. And I can't wait to find out, what it is that God's going to do with me, because I'm looking forward to what he's doing with me now, and what's been happening with you? Has God been doing something like that with you? He has? Oh, wow, cool. Tell me about it. What's God been doing with you? Well, you see, that's supposedly a Jesus freak. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'm supposed to get into the latest Harley, the Christian Harley. I get around a bunch of Christians and they want to talk about their Harleys. That's nice. When's the next Harley run? Well, we're going to go to Washington and protest against the anti-Christians. Really? Cool. Guess we could get our Harley and kind of join you. Yeah, you should ride with us. We're going to teach them ungodly people a lesson. We're going to all show up in mass and ride around and let them know who's boss. Yep. I can see that. I got a handle on that one. Seen that on reality television, God bless those people. We're going to go bless them by confronting them. Okay. Like I said, I get depressed being around a bunch of Christians. but I get blessed by the people of God. I don't know, it just seems like people of God have a godly nature of God in them. And my definition of God is love. God is love. So I figure, hey, these people love, and they like to love, and they love on, and they do, and they're excited to do more, and they want to do more, and they're involved in doing stuff, with God. They're involved in learning about God. They're involved in talking about God. Matter of fact, they can't get enough of God in their life. They even have things like afterglows instead of like, well, this is a typical Christian. Where we go for lunch? Well, flip a coin. Nah, I'm not going this time. I think I better go home and do some chores, I need to take a nap. It's Sunday morning, it's pretty early, I got to get up early, get the kids ready, get the wife ready, go to church, do my thing, get it all together, kind of like, get ready, and then I got to go to work, Monday, so of course, I got to go home and get things straight, Yeah, I know what that's like, That was a good service, wasn't it? Yeah, great service. Fantastic. I'm all set. Yep. Look forward to seeing you next Sunday. Yep, see you next Sunday, George. Okay. See you, Fred. Christians depress me. Man, I'll tell you. I've asked Christians after the service, what did the pastor talk about, and they haven't a clue. But they know what they want to do, and that's get the hell out of there. Now, they don't say it quite that blunt, but sort of they do. Matter of fact, I'm always fascinated because I'll let you in on a little secret. The pastor I came to know, and the one that I was involved in, after the service he would be there, and he would stay pretty late. He'd answer questions, and then he'd visit for a while, Wasn't the last one out, although there were quite a few nights that I know personally I saw him drive out, so I know he was the last one out of Calvary Chapel of Costa Mesa, but I liked him because he kind of was around. I never really went up and talked to him much, but didn't get to know him much either. But he was around. You always knew that he'd been talking to God because he just felt like he had. That's why we all called him or a lot of people called him Papa Chuck, but I didn't. I didn't think of him as a father, but he wasn't a father figure to me, but he was a good guy. He felt like he knew God. He was one of the people of God. And, I had a lot of people that I used to talk to in those days, that I listened to what they were saying. I'd kind of pull a Romaine on them. I'd stand back and go, let me hear what they're saying. And they talk about, going to the restaurant, going to the beach, catching the waves, about their job, about their wife, about a lot of things. And that was what they called fellowship. But there were a lot of other people that talked about, passing out tracts or, witnessing or evangelism or someone they're praying for, or if they could pray for someone, and, different things. And I'll admit, I went to Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa for probably almost 6 months before anyone ever talked to me. Yeah. The big center of Jesus love. Costa Mesa, the big C. It took about, probably 3 months, I guess about 3 months before anyone even bothered to walk up and say hi. And I'm talking about greeters, I'm talking about everybody. It wasn't like I ran, hide from them. I'd sit there and sure enough there'd be nobody sitting around me, Even in those days when it was packed, I'd go up front, and I'd lay out in the front, nobody bothered me there, Nobody bothered me in the back, nobody bothered me in the front. Man, I was getting pretty lonely, I'm beginning to think that only place that ever had anything like what I experienced when I got saved was back out at Riverside, Calvary Chapel, Riverside at that time. That was when I got saved. Everybody was like standing up, sitting down, kind of smiling, laughing, carrying on. Well, before I got completely discouraged, some bro finally came up and talked to me, one. And then I got involved, and I found the people of God. But I want to let you know a little secret. That one pastor, after I met Calvary Chapel pastors and Foursquare pastors and ministers and priests and other kinds of people, I can tell you what they talk about after the service. It ain't God. And it's not godly. 90% of the time, they're very carnal. Almost everyone I met. And I met a lot. Probably about 20, maybe more. Probably more. But they didn't talk about what I thought that, pastors would be talking about. So I used to pray for them, and I used to pray with them and pray about them and do all kinds of things to try to inspire them to be realizing, hey, you're the one I'm looking at. And then I realized I was making a mistake. I shouldn't be looking at these guys. These guys don't know what they're doing. And I realized that later as I began to watch them in action. They don't know what they're doing. And then it became a blessing to laugh at them because they really don't know what they're doing once you get involved with them. But God knows what he's doing. So God will use them anyways, and God will use you anyways, and God will use people anyways to accomplish his purpose because he's the one we're looking at. Or at least he's the one I'm looking at. Because I'll tell you, if I'm looking at you, I'd rather have you be a people of God than be a Christian. I've been around them Christians, they're the most depressing people I ever met, man. They got more problems with no solutions, more protesting and more aggravations and more angst than anyone I ever met. Matter of fact, I think, the Muslims and the Mormons and all these other people, they got it made because they look happy. They're not, but they look happy. So I kind of got a word for you on perspective, Don't be surprised if your church is more church than it is of God. Don't be surprised if your churchy people are religiously involved more than they are relationally involved with God. Matter of fact, I can always tell when somebody's bored silly because they don't want to be around me. And they can't wait to see me leave because you know what? That's what I talk about. Oh, I'll start in a little bit, about their subject, whatever it may be, which is really boring to me. And I'll be honest with you, I'm the most boring Christian in the world, or at least boring person that you're ever going to meet, because I like to talk about God. And it's interesting, when I do find those people that like to do the same, I love it. I know one group of people that do that, and they're over at, Calvary Chapel, Laguna Creek, and they're kind of like they're a little tiny church, and they got their own little issues, I'm sure, their own little, struggles, and they kind of go this way, that way, probably play, the games that most churches do, but they finally come to a way that is making sense, because by the time I came there, I was blessed. I was like, man, this is cool. I can deal with these. I could roll with these people. Man, they like my posse. Hey, I could check it because they're blessed and I'm getting blessed. And they say the same thing I say. Let's talk about Jesus. Let me give you a word from Tozer on that so you kind of know that I'm not making all this stuff up. The flock of God, safe in Jesus. Feed the flock of God which is among you. And when the chief shepherd shall appear, you shall receive a crown of glory that fades not away. 1 Peter 5:2 and 4. The people who want to know God, the people who want to walk with God, the people who have learned to recognize the voice of the Good Shepherd, they will always be at home in a spirit-filled congregation. It is sad indeed that some have never heard the voice of the shepherd, that they have never heard the voice of God speak, they have never heard Jesus speak audibly to them. His voice is as tender as a lullaby, and as strong as the wind, and as mighty as the sound of many waters. The people who have learned to hear and recognize the voice of Jesus, that healing voice, that calming voice, that voice that speaks directly to the heart, the musical, the solemn, the beautiful voice of Jesus speaking to the person, the beautiful voice of God speaking in his church. Those that hear his voice are always at home where everything centers around him. The true Christian church can be a conglomeration of everything under the sun. It can be a micmash of a mishmash, and it can be a mock-up of a, what do they call those? Can't think of what they call them when they mix all these little sets together. Mashup? Mashup. It can be a mock-up of a mashup, and in fact, be quite Christian about it. That is, we may have Calvinists and Arminians and Methodists and Baptists, evangelicals, Jesus freaks, those that are bikers, those that are hikers, those that are politicians, those that are in the service militarily, those that are in the service as missionaries. We can have quite a mixture of spaghetti and goulash. And yet we are all together on one thing, Jesus. And it must be about Jesus in his wisdom, and Jesus in his righteousness, and Jesus in his sanctification, and Jesus in his redemption. He is, after all, the all in all. And the people of the Lord who have learned to hear the voice of the shepherd gravitate, they congregate, they are ingrate, so to speak, of that type of service and that type of situation or congregation that is all about being with Jesus. They may not be so sure about who else is present, but they know the Lord is present, and they are sensitive to that because they know that Jesus is there. Do you find your heart, in your own heart, sensitive to the Lord's presence? Or are you among those who are just sampling, kind of checking out and nibbling, kind of like tasting it here and there? God help you if you are, for the child of the king is a sheep who loves his shepherd and he stays close to him. That's the only safe place for a sheep. Stay close to Jesus, and all of the wolves in the world cannot get a tooth in you. Because you see, it would be easy for me to say that, oh, well, Calvary chapels are the way to go. Well, I've gone to a lot of Calvary chapels. I'll visit a lot of them once. I ain't going back there. Man. My wife knows, and she's been with me when I goes, because I've listened to some of the things that are said, and I've gone, I'd be better off dead than listening to some of this stuff, and I'd rather be out of here, dude, because whatever's going on here is not for me. And it would be just that, the Spirit of God leading me somewhere else. God bless them, whatever they're doing. I don't know what they're doing, but God bless them anyways. And I would walk out and just say, hey, fine. Check out another Calvary. And another. Some of them I've seen, now, especially with Chuck Smith gone, have become religious Calvaries. Oh, they're getting part of the family, they call themselves a Calvary, but they're about as Calvary as far as, like a Methodist is from a Pentecostal. Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa at one time was pretty much Pentecostal. In a lot of ways, there's a lot of things happening in the Spirit. One of the things I can say very clear about it, there's a lot of religious people that got involved in Calvary Chapels, and there's a lot of Calvary Chapels out there that, man, if that's the Spirit and he's alive, whoa. They're a big surprise when the parable of 10 virgins comes about, because not so sure they got any oil at all. I hope they got something in there, man. Because they say the right things. They seem to do the right things. But you know what, man? Sure don't seem very happy about it. They're very dogmatic about it. You'll fill out this application, fill out this reservation, fill out this, confirmation, this affirmation. And if you get all this paperwork filled out, then you can be a part of our church. Really? Me? Fill out your paperwork? I don't think so, dude. It's like, if I can't be saved without the paperwork, I'm sure not going to get saved with the paperwork. I don't know what church you came from, but I came from a tent. And I'm still dwelling in my tent sometimes. Matter of fact, before the month is out, I may be dwelling in a tent. Who knows? We'll see. But seriously, there's some serious big business with Calvary now. I mean, big business. Money, honey. And so, from where I came from, I'm looking at like, wow,